For more on this, BC Liberal MP Taleeb Noormohamed is in Ottawa, and in Winnipeg, Conservative public safety critic Raquel. Dancho, hi to both of you. Thank you very much for making the time. Mr. Noormohamed, I'll start with you. Did any member of your government or any of their staff ever tell Brenda Lucki or her staff to make sure details of the weapons used in the mass shooting in Nova Scotia were made public? And did you tie that to upcoming gun control legislation?
Well, actually, first of all, I mean, this is an important and difficult time for the folks, the families and others that were first traumatized by the incident, of course, being re-traumatized by the MCC. Look, our government is not in the business of scoring political points at the expense of Canadian tragedies. That's not what this is about. And the RCMP, as you well know, does not take their direction from the federal government. The RCMP operates independently, and that independence is critical to ensuring that our public safety and our parliamentary systems are protected in the way that they are.
Respectfully, Mr. Noormohamed, that doesn't answer the question. Did your government at any point tell RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucki to make sure that details of the weapons used in the shooting were made public, were told to the media, and did you tie that to upcoming gun control legislation? Is the answer no? Is that what you're saying?
The minister made that very clear today, and I think it's very important that Canadians understand that we are not in the business of scoring cheap political points at the expense of a Canadian tragedy. That is not a reasonable thing for any government to do.
So are you saying that the Superintendent Darren Campbell, who recalled this in his notes in the document that was made public today, is not telling the truth?
I'm saying that I, like you, heard what the minister said today, and the minister made it very clear that at no point in time was Commissioner Lucki directed to do anything in this regard by the Department of Public Safety. And the RCMP Commissioner is free to speak to and give direction to her staff and her team as she chooses, but she does that as an independent individual and not as some kind of instrument of the federal government.
So she never said, quote unquote here, she had promised the Minister of Public Safety and the Prime Minister's office that the RCMP would release this information. She never said that.
I mean, again, as I said, the minister was asked the question today in the House. The minister's on record saying that at no point in time was the commissioner of the RCMP pressured to do that.
Okay, Ms. Dancho, my apologies. Your party, as we heard in that exchange, was certainly, and I should say this was first reported by the Halifax Examiner today, based on documents released to the inquiry, is criticizing the government for doing this. You heard what your colleague here just said, echoing the minister's comments. They're denying that they ever told the RCMP to do this. Do you have any reason to believe otherwise, or should you just take them at their word?
I would say it's according to the Nova Scotia Superintendent Vashi, who is a fairly high-ranking and reputable official in Nova Scotia, who is making the claim, who is alleging that during a meeting with the commissioner of the RCMP, the commissioner had said to him and to others that she had promised the Prime Minister's office and the Public Safety Minister's office that she would get this information released. What's being alleged is that it was for the purpose of leveraging a horrific tragedy for the political gain of the Liberal government. And one thing I will agree with my colleague here is that this is devastating news for the families impacted by this tragedy. 22 people were tragically murdered. And in the heat of that first week, when there was an ongoing critical criminal investigation, we are learning or alleging, it is being alleged, that the Prime Minister's office and the Public Safety Minister's office were attempting to leverage that for their own political gain and interfere with a criminal investigation. Incredibly serious and shocking allegations that need to be investigated. The Conservative Party will be moving forward with every tool at our disposal to get to the bottom of this. This needs to be investigated. We need to have these individuals mentioned in this story testify to get the full story.
Look, if the government if you take them at their word and there was no direction provided, and Commissioner Lucki is the one who told the group that assembled that, in fact, all these things that are being reported, that she was being pressured, or that she not pressured, that she did make a promise rather, and that it was tied to gun control legislation. Should her job sort of be in jeopardy? Like, do you think, does the responsibility fall on her?
Well, on one account of what you said, I don't think it's easy for the public to trust this government. We see a critical pattern emerging here. We saw similar behavior and denial of wrongdoing during the SNC Lavalin scandal. There was denial at that time, and we know how that turned out. So I would say that they don't get the benefit of the doubt in this regard. It is being alleged that there was serious political interference from the highest level of government to direct the RCMP to reveal critical information about an ongoing investigation of the worst mass killing in Canadian history within a week of that happening. I think that's shocking news. It would seem that the RCMP commissioner was acting on direction from the Prime Minister's office. That's why we need to get to the bottom of this, Vashi, and ensure that these individuals testify before committee and that the truth is revealed and justice is served to those accountable if this is true and these allegations prove to be true during that testimony.
Mr. Noormohamed, I note that you and the minister deny that any direction was provided. So let's take that off the table for a second. Can you tell Canadians watching tonight that there were no discussions between staff members in the PMO or the public safety minister or his staff members and the commissioner of the RCMP during the time or thereafter of the shooting that involved upcoming gun control legislation? Was gun control legislation ever discussed in this context?
Actually, I think I'm very concerned to hear my colleague even assert that our government would seek to play politics with the tragedy. This is not how our government operates. It's not how we have operated in the past. It's not how we're going to operate in the future. The idea that somehow there is a group of people that are sitting in a room going, oh, let's find a way to capitalize on the mass murder of Canadians is absolutely appalling and it should be condemned in the strongest possible terms that someone even contemplate making an accusation like that. The fact of the matter is that the RCMP work independently of the federal government. And as a former public servant who worked in the Department of Public Safety, I can tell you, having worked with past commissioners of the RCMP, it is not, the RCMP is very clear about not becoming a political tool of the government, regardless of who is in power. And I think it is important for us to stop undermining the institutions that keep this country safe.
Respectfully, this isn't just drawn out of thin. I'll get your response in a second, Ms. Dancho, but this isn't just drawn out of thin air. The reason that we're doing this segment is because of the reporting that is based on a document that was released in the inquiry today. I understand that there are many politics at play around the issue of gun control normally, right? But this was notes taken by an RCMP superintendent. I'm gathering from what you're saying that you're denying that direction was given, that the RCMP operates independently, fine. Are you also saying that there was no discussion of upcoming gun control legislation in the context of the shooting with the RCMP?
Just to be clear, I cannot imagine a scenario in which at that time, there would have been a conversation between the RCMP and political staff about how to capitalize on an ongoing tragedy that was in play in order to fulfill a legislative goal. It makes no sense that would transpire. I mean, think about timelines, think about process. Nobody works in that way logically, but most importantly, ethically, that's not how people work.
And Ms. Dancho, I'll give you the last word. I know that there is the account of the superintendent, but given the words of your colleague, given the words of the minister, they are saying that this was, there wasn't a political discussion going on. Do you accept that too could be true?
If they're so confident that that is the case, I mean, and frankly, for all Canadians, I hope that they're telling the truth. But if that is the case, then they should have no issue bringing forward these individuals to committee to testify. I sit on the committee with my honorable colleague on this panel. If he feels so confident, I would assume that he would support us bringing forward all of these witnesses to testify so that we can learn the truth and Canadians can learn the truth about this allegation, which again, very, very serious. It's being alleged, just to sum it up, that the Prime Minister's office and the Public Safety Minister's office interfered in a criminal investigation for their own political gain. That we need to get to the bottom of that, and I hope that my colleague on this panel supports it. He should, if he's as confident as he says he is.
I'm out of time, but Mr. Noormohamed, would you support an investigation through that committee?
I think there's an important investigation ongoing right now. I think our committee does excellent work, and if it ends up in our committee, look, I think it's important for us to ask the questions, get the right answer.
That's up to you, though. That's up to you.
Okay.
Not about score.
Okay, I'm out of time. I appreciate both of you making the time for this. Thank you. Liberal MP Taleeb Noormohamed and Conservative public safety critic Raquel Dancho. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.